Sam Moelis. You're an interesting character in quite a few ways. There's always humor in your interviews and in your demeanor, always a story accompanying a conversation with you. Most recently, really unusual in fencing, but you may have had a case of cauliflower ear. How does this happen?
Yeah, I went out to dinner one night after practice with my friend Matt Brandon, and I started feeling my ear, and it just felt big. It felt like tender and swollen, and you couldn't tell. You couldn't tell. I asked him, and he's like, "No, it looks fine." So I go to bed, and I wake up in the morning, and my left ear is twice the size of my right ear, and so I go to a city MD, and they stick a syringe in it, and they drain out the fluid. It was disgusting, and it's still swollen. The fluid goes back, so I end up going to a plastic surgeon, and the plastic surgeon says two blood vessels had burst in my ear, creating a hematoma, which is just a buildup of blood in the ear. So he had to cut through the front of the ear, and then he saw that it started bleeding in the back of the ear. So he couldn't cut through the front and the back, so he had to just cut through the middle. So he cut through some of the cartilage in my ear, and I ended up having to sit out for about 2 weeks from actual fencing. Unfortunately, the one thing that I couldn't do was apply pressure on it, which means that I couldn't wear a mask. So
Sleeping's even a challenge.
So that was a challenge. So I was working with Dan, and we ended up putting goggles on, giant goggles on, and then finally, when I started to fence, I wore the wrestling helmet, the wrestling headgear that they wore, the one with the big cups and the strap around, and then put a big mask over it. And the mask I was wearing was an extra large because my ear is still a little bruised in the back, and I have some scarring down here along the front and the back. I avoid putting pressure on it by wearing a giant extra large mask, and I'm wearing it right now, and I'm going to continue to wear it. It gives my head a little more room to breathe, and I can do like 360s with it while keeping my head straight. But as you can see, no more cauliflower ear.
No more. Wow, those are some beautiful ears there, Sam.
Thank you. But on the back, it's a little bit of scarring.
Minimal scarring as well.
A little bit of bruising, but I'm back. I can hear, and thank God I don't have to wear the wrestling headgear when I fence at competitions.
And of course, you mentioned wrestling, but for anyone not familiar with cauliflower ear, it could be rugby, it could be boxing, any really combat sport or a sport where there's potential for that contact.
Yeah, it's just constant wear and tear, and your ear fills in until there's no more gaps in between. There's nothing. It's just a giant blob.
Well, there's such a small membrane. There's so little room for like a hematoma and the blood to expand that it just expands.
The hematoma makes it. If you don't take care of that, it hardens, and then there's nothing that you can do about it. It's just there, and all of a sudden you're walking around with an ear like this. So I wanted to avoid that. It's not very common in the sport of fencing, but unfortunately someone may have hit me on the side of the head, caused some blood vessels to pop, and my head was bandaged for about 2 weeks.
Was there any, in Sabre you have like someone getting bell guarded or something like that? Do you recall any contact that was abnormal?
I mean, it could definitely be through fencing. It's a contact sport. You could, sometimes you get bell guarded and you don't even think about it, or, everyone has a coach, and you mess up sometimes in the lesson. You get a little slap on the side of the mask, and that could have done it. Apparently, not a lot of pressure was needed to be applied to pop the blood vessel. So it could have been about anything. So it could have been me messing up in the lesson, getting a firm slap on the side of the head, or it could have been me getting bell guarded during a bout. But either way, it was filled up with blood, and that was a fun experience.
All right, well, keep those ears pretty, Sam.
Thank you.